Hello, everyone. Welcome back to NRL Nostradamus, the last preview for the upcoming season. We have the Roosters, the Warriors, and the Tigers, Dicko. And guess what, mate?
What's that, mate?
Next week, Vegas previews.
Yeah, good. Finally. Let's get into it.
Let's get into it. A few trial games over the weekend, 9 games, in fact, including the All Stars. A little bit to piece out of it, but I tell you what, the first team that we're going to start off with today, the Roosters, well, yeah, I know we're both going to probably rip into them here, and I'm really looking forward to it. But before we do, just shout out to two of our sponsors, Create and Grip Socks. Look, we're wearing their gear, Create merchandise, top to toe. We've got on our merch site, we've got hats, we've got stubby coolers, we've got hoodies. They do everything from pens, coasters, whatever you need, whether it be for your sporting club, any sort of apparel, any merchandise you need, embroidery, you name it, they do it. Visit their website, cr8.sydney. Mention us. They'll give you a discount. When it comes to grip socks, we're talking GRIPZ Use our code NOSTRA20 for a whopping discount at checkout. Check them out on Instagram, Facebook. They've got all the platforms, you name it. Now, Dicko,
Yes, mate.
the Roosters.
Mm.
Let's
The
read out their
Roosters.
gains.
Yeah, they're going well.
It looks really
How,
spicy on
how,
paper.
how long have we got? How long
Uh,
have we got for the gains?
have you got a spare 5 seconds? Toby Rodwell. That's one. He's not even going to play. Chad Townsend. That's it. They are a basket case in terms of recruitment. Shame about the injuries, obviously, to Sam Walker and Brandon Smith. That's going to be a bit of a hindrance to their squad this season, obviously integral parts of their team. But look, Michael Jennings is retired. Luke Keary's off to the English Super League. Joseph Manu's gone to Japanese rugby. Chero May, I don't know what happened there, but
Gone.
see ya. Dylan Napa retired. He wasn't getting a run anyway. Suali'i, one of their youngest up-and-coming players, gone to rugby union. Satili Tupanua, good backup, gone. And their enforcer, Jared Ria-Hargreaves, gone.
Super League, yep.
So, yeah, I don't really know where to go with the Chooks, but just on that recruitment alone, it's...
Well, it's not like they didn't try and recruit players over the summer, is it? Like they had a crack at Ben Hunt.
Yep.
They had a crack at a few other players. So it's not actually like they stood around and twiddled their thumbs for the whole summer. But it was probably the first summer in a long, long time where the players that they wanted, they didn't get, I would say.
I mean, they've got Reece Robson coming in 2026, but outside of that, there's nothing happening.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of top eights and top fours from people around for this season, and they're still the Roosters are still featuring heavily. Now, they've still got some good players, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But we've spoken about this on every single preview we've done for every team, and depth's going to play a massive part. You look at Penrith, for instance, right? Being able to cover players and their best players being injured, whilst still making charges to grand finals and finals, right? So the Roosters just don't have that this year. I don't think anyway. I'm looking at their squad of 30 and I'm not seeing a squad that can win a premiership. That's for sure. To be honest,
you can write off the premiership.
Well, I don't even see a squad that's going to make the top 8, to be honest.
Well, look, on the weekend, they played the Dragons in the trial, obviously. The only players they were missing, some good players. You've had James Tedesco, Connor Watson, Lindsay Collins, Victor Radley.
Yep.
That's who they were missing, right?
Yeah.
Outside that, they were literally full strength.
Yeah.
Aside from Billy Smith, who's sort of getting rested to play center spot. But is he going to be an integral part of their success this year? Maybe. But, relying on a center to get you the chocolates is, not ideal.
I feel like the Roosters season is going to come down to the first 10 to 12 weeks when Sam Walker and Brandon Smith are potentially, for that period of time, unavailable. I'm not sure where they are in their in their
Yeah.
rehab, but they did do their ACLs quite late in the season, so you would assume they're going to miss at least the first 8 weeks.
Yeah.
So I reckon their season's going to come down to the first 10 weeks. Now we'll dive into shortly. I'm sure you've got their first 10 games
Oh yeah.
or their draw there.
Yeah.
So, and I know they've got Broncos in round one,
Yeah. They got Penrith in round 2.
and good start that. Um, so yeah, I mean, I feel like their season comes down to the first. If they can hold their own in the first 8 to 10 weeks, get some players back, then they might be okay. But if they start slowly, which sometimes the Roosters actually do, they
Yeah.
use it as a marathon, not a sprint. The season. So if they
Yeah.
start slowly, I don't think they can start slowly this year. They've got to start all guns blazing. And if you're looking at pure trial form, obviously there's another trial this week. From what I saw on the weekend, alarm bells are ringing.
Yeah. And I don't think. I mean, you look at those 2 first fixtures. You would assume that the Broncos and Penrith are winning those.
They do have the Broncos at home. I'm pretty sure the Broncos are away the first week. So I
Yep.
mean, Brisbane don't necessarily travel to Sydney well,
Yeah.
and it's
And
the
look,
first game of the season.
the NRL's done them some favors. They don't have any 5-day turnarounds. And the distance they have to travel is only 10,000 kilometers versus the average being 25. But wait till you hear this one. Bulldogs twice. Rabbitohs twice. Broncos twice. Sharks twice. Melbourne twice. Panthers twice.
Yeah, that's not great reading, is it, for the Roosters fans? I wouldn't have thought. I mean,
Yeah.
we're obviously going off last season's results, right? So
Yeah.
you would assume some of those teams aren't going to be as good as what they were last year, just in the natural evolution of
Yeah.
the table.
And
But
let's be honest, if you're not a Chooks fan, you love to hate the Chooks.
oh, absolutely, can't stand the Chooks. No offense to Roosters fans.
Yeah. But you know what? Let's see what transpires. Is there any sort of player that you think either really needs to step up, or is there a breakout player that you think might come through?
So there is someone I think needs to step up, and I've been thinking about this for a little bit, and he was great at Penrith, and he was great in State of Origin last year. But I thought for the Roosters, Spencer Leniu was poor.
Mm. Yeah, he missed those opening rounds, of course.
Missed the opening rounds, of course, and then when he came back after State of Origin, I mean, you and I were at that game 3 last year, and he effectively was a one man wrecking ball. Every time he got the ball, he
Oh
just
yeah,
destroyed players. So I didn't see that the last sort of 8 to 10 weeks of the season. And you're coming over as a big recruit. Now, whether that was because he was I feel like he's a starting player.
yeah. Do you think they'll start him, or do you think they'll
I
still bring him off the
No,
bench?
I think they have to start him. I think they have to get him into the game early. I think even though he provides great impact, I just feel like he's got to start now.
Yeah,
I mean, you're bringing him over as effectively your marquee forward from the Panthers.
yeah,
You know, he's got to produce something more than what he. So I'm looking for a big season from him, and
yeah,
I feel like Sandon Smith, this is it for him. This
yeah. It
season's it.
is. It
This
really
is
is, isn't it?
this is it. This is his opportunity to make the 6 at the Roosters his own.
Mm.
All right, so he's got a perfect, as I said, opportunity to really go out there and put a stamp on the 6
Because it looks like
jersey.
he's going to be the goal kicker as well.
Yeah, and the goal kicking. So I'm looking for big things from those two, especially. They're big opportunities for both of them this season.
Yeah, I guess I am a little bit worried about Sandon Smith, and you're right, he does need to step up. Just looking at the trial game on the weekend, I know trial games are nothing to read into, but he literally kicked the ball 3 times for 33 meters.
Mm.
I know he's the 5'8", and Chad Townsend's going to probably dominate some of that kicking, but 4 tackles, 5 missed tackles.
Mm. Yeah, no, it's got to
He's going to
improve.
get targeted, isn't he? And he only ran
Absolutely.
for 37 meters. So, yeah, they got steamrolled by the Dragons in some way, but if you're going to take that next step, that can't happen anymore.
Yep.
Like, it's just can't happen anymore. I tell you what, though, Dicko, one player that I'm really excited to see have a breakout season, who's been, had his fair share of injuries. It's Robert Toya.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you'll find that Billy Smith will grab that other centre position, and
Yep.
Robert Toya will start at centre.
Yep.
Mark Nwanga-Ntawaze, I think he'll miss out. Look, great athlete, versatile, will add a bit of depth, but I just don't think he's the player that Chooks want to start with, and he's in his second year of
Well, that's right. He's still learning the game,
rugby
isn't he?
league.
Really? Yeah.
Yeah, but Robert Toya, I mean, on the weekend, in a side that was very poor, he ran 118 metres from centre, 6 tackle breaks, 20 tackles, 0 missed.
Mm.
So it's pretty impressive reading when it's your sort of
Yeah.
first proper run in the outfit.
Yeah.
And that's who I think is going to be the breakout player. And I mean, the telling question now, Dicko, you can't see him making the 8.
No.
Where have you got him? Bottom 4?
Oh, I mean, it's hard to put a Roosters team in the bottom 4. No, I don't have him in the bottom 4. I have him just outside the bottom 4.
Okay.
I feel like they're just outside the bottom 4. But the other thing I was going to say is I think more than anything, their spiritual leader in terms of Victor Radley, their season could hinge on the amount of time he spends on the sidelines, suspended and or sin bin.
Yes.
So if I'm the coaching staff, I'm having a chat to him at the start of the year saying, mate, we can't afford you. We still want you to go hard, but within reason. We can't afford you sitting on the sideline this year because as I said, I think this more than anything this season, they need him on the field.
It's going to be hard because he's going to have to step up as the enforcer, but then also control himself.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So I don't really know how that's going to work. But hey, look, let's wish the Roosters all the best for the upcoming season. / we hope they do diabolically. And I'm going to throw them
as a Panthers and Broncos fan. We hope they go not well.
I'm going to throw them straight in the bottom 4. Welcome, 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 as they say in the classics.
Yeah, right.
I think honestly their squad on paper is thin. No pun intended there. They've got no Walker, no Brandon Smith. Connor Watson's going to obviously have to play big minutes. I think he's a massive asset to the side. But, I mean, you look through every squad and you go, okay, who finished bottom last year? You know, like sort of Tigers were thereabouts. The Eels were thereabouts. You know, they've looked sharp. Like, they've looked really sharp. You know, I know it's early days and, you know, nothing will sort of come to fruition properly until the first sort of 6 rounds. But you're right. If the Roosters don't start well, they don't have the journeyman anymore or the caliber of players to sort of pick them back up.
Yeah.
So it hinges very much on there. But yeah, lock them into the bottom 4, mate. Lock them in.
All right, we'll take a clip of that and we'll play that again in round 27.
See where they sit. Wooden spoon, maybe. Smoking. All right.
New coach, maybe.
Yeah. Well, yeah. New coach. Now, Dicko, some exciting news here. We've actually partnered with High Caliber Racing. So just want to give them a massive shout out and thank you for coming on board as our major sponsor for the year. Look, if you want to take your racehorse ownership to the next level, you know, High Caliber Racing's got you covered. Whether you're new to the racehorse ownership or looking to add another one to your stable, it's a lifetime experience for you. So get around them, check them out. That's highcaliberracing.com.au. Check out our socials for the link. And give Dale and the team a call if you want to get involved. Now, Dicko.
Yes, mate.
The Warriors. The Warriors. I'm really excited about all 3 teams today because there's a lot of people bullish about the Roosters still. Some, like myself, think they're going to go close to the spoon. Warriors, I think they're in the same boat, and same with the Tigers. So I'm really keen to sort of preview these next 2 teams. The Warriors... First trial game, basket case. Second trial game, unreal. Bit of a reflection of last season, really.
Yep.
Some weeks you thought, geez, these guys could really push for that top 4 again, you know? Yep. And then other weeks you're thinking, oh, this is leakier than, you know, a plumber's crack. Like it wasn't good. So, but let's have a look at some of their gains. Let's start with the big dog, James Fisher-Harris.
Yeah, great signing.
Obviously, with the loss of Adam Fanua-Blake, that sort of offsets that. Tanner Boyd has come to add some depth there in the halves. He hasn't yet been seen this preseason, but he is nursing an injury.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Whether he gets a run or not in round one, I doubt it.
Yeah,
You
I
haven't
wouldn't have
sort of
thought so.
participated in preseason. But I tell you what, if it's not working, he could add a bit of stability there. But from what I've seen anyway, Dicko,
Hmm.
Luke Metcalf's really stepped up, and I
Yep.
think he is the key man this season.
So is he going to play the 7 or the 6?
Looks like
Do
he's
you
going to
think?
play 7.
Yeah, right.
I
I
don't
don't
know
know.
if I'm a fan of him playing 7 just because it takes away from his running game and creativity, but
I wouldn't have thought that, but yeah,
who's
okay.
going to step up? Like, is there
Yeah.
any other 7s in their squad outside Tanner Boyd, who's
Well, they've got
been
Tamare
injured?
Martin.
Is he a 7?
Well, if you remember last season when Sean Johnson was out,
Yeah, he was good.
we were
He was
talking about
very good.
Tamare Martin can't be dropped.
Mm, mm.
He was excellent. So, and I feel like Tamare is a better 7 than 6.
Yeah.
But Chanel
For
Harris
me, it's more
Tavita.
the kicking game, like not necessarily organization. It's that who's got the kicking game to almost change momentum of the game. Like, look at the Broncos. They've got Adam Reynolds,
Mm.
superb kicking game. The Eels, even Mitchell
Yeah,
Moses.
Mitch Moses. Yep.
Panthers,
Yep.
Nathan Cleary, Storm, Jerome Hughes has developed his game significantly to improve that kicking side, but they don't have that great a kicking game either.
Mm.
But most of the sides, I mean, this is where I'm interested to see how the Tigers go when we preview them too. But if you look at the Warriors, I mean, they were woeful off the tee last year in terms of goal kicking. I
Oh.
remember watching one game with you. I think it was
Yeah.
Harris Tavita from right in front against
Oh, you can't laugh
the
at the poor
Raiders,
bloke,
and
you know.
like seriously. Anyway, they've also signed Aaron Clark. He's an interesting one. Big fan. I'm a big fan of Aaron Clark.
So
I
here's
think.
okay. So here's a question for you, just on Aaron Clark and how he fits
Yep.
into this. I'm looking at a predicted 17 now, right? As we're talking about
Yep.
this, it has
Yep.
Aaron Clark, Dylan Walker, and Chanel Harris Tavita all in the one team. Can that happen?
No.
Okay, so who do you leave out then? And then,
Harris Tavita. So you leave Harris Tavita out. You bring Dylan Walker on as rotation for Aaron Clark, although Aaron Clark and Dylan Walker can place, minutes in the middle, and I think we saw that in the last game. I think what the Warriors were really impressive because they played the Storm, right? Like, yeah, the Storm didn't have any players, but a Craig Bellamy team, just like an Ivan Cleary team, whoever comes in normally will do a job, and they looked second fiddle by a long, long way.
don't even get me
And
started on that game.
the mobility and pace of the big men and outside backs from the Warriors, like they were making like 60, 70 meters every single set.
Yep.
And it looked like the Sunshine Coast Falcons filling in for the
Well, effectively it
Storm.
was, I think.
Yeah. But, you compare that in contrast to the previous week where they looked, very shaky, albeit new combinations, and all their big guns sort of stepped up. Bear in mind, they didn't have James Fisher-Harris either for that game. They also rested Mitch Barnett. So their two dominant
big
forwards
dogs.
didn't even play.
Yeah.
But again, trial game, let's not get too excited. Look, they've lost, obviously, Sean Johnson. Tohu Harris is retired as well, and Adam Fanua-Blake. They're the three big ones. They've obviously lost Jazz Tavanga, who offered a little bit of depth. Montoya. They've got a young fella, Sam Healy, who's appeared in some games, and I fear for Freddie Lussick's future as an NRL player because I think it's almost gone because he's not even getting a run. I think he played a couple of minutes in the middle towards the back end of the game, and he was sort of like almost pushing for Wade Egan's spot there at one point.
Yeah.
How do you see the Warriors? Like, are you bullish about the Warriors, or are you a little bit?
Yeah, I didn't know until sort of listening to you just now, and I feel like I am a little bit bullish on the
Tell
Warriors.
you what, distance travelled 75,000 kilometres.
Yeah,
that's understandable.
Haven't done them any favors, have they? Really?
Yeah, no 5-day turnaround, so they've been kind there.
But I feel like, unlike the Roosters, the Warriors, what they've lost, they've replaced.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Jazz Tavanga, you replaced with Aaron Clark. You've replaced Fanua-Blake with Fisher Harris. So they've replaced players that they've lost with similar players, if not upgraded.
It's more really the halves, isn't it? Can the
Yeah.
halves step up and dominate at NRL level?
And there was going to be a time when those halves were going to have to step up. I'm not
Yeah.
sure what the right combination is between Metcalf, Martin, and Harris Tavita. All right.
Mm.
I feel like Metcalf has to play in the 6 or the 7. All right. So the other
Yeah.
two, flip a coin, see what happens. But
Mm.
whatever decision they make, they've got to stick with because these are young guys. Tomorrow Martin's not. He's been around for a little while, but these are young guys that need time to develop. All right.
Yeah.
So,
Before you give your opinion
mm,
on where you think they'll finish, I just want to let you know who they play twice because I think that has an integral sort of bearing on the outcome of their season.
yep.
So they play Manly, Dolphins, Raiders, Knights, Dragons, Broncos, Titans, Tigers twice.
Okay.
So they don't play the Sharks, the Panthers, or the Storm twice, who I think are the three, teams that you can say will comfortably finish in the 8, probably top 4.
Yeah. I mean, again, I reckon I've got 15 teams in my top 8, to be honest, if I go back and listen to every one of these previews that we've
Yeah.
done.
Well, they don't play Thursday night.
You would assume that the Warriors, we know, have great advantage playing in New Zealand, right? So
Mm,
they're going to
mm.
have full stadium every single game. I think every one of their games last year was sold out.
Yeah.
You're
And
gonna,
they're
you,
50-50 this year. It's,
yeah.
12 in Australia, 12 at home.
So I would think that they're going to win at least 80 to 90% of those home games,
Yeah.
which then almost gives you enough wins to get into the 8. And then with the experience of Fisher Harris and the development of some of these young guys, you would assume they jag a few wins on the road. So I definitely have them in the 8. Don't have them in the 4, but
Mm.
I think they sneak into the top 8, provided that their spine continues to develop
Yep.
and stays on the park.
Well, their away game is Vegas, not their home game.
Oh,
So
is it?
that helps
Okay.
as well.
Well, that does help, yeah.
Whereas the Raiders, we know, people don't want to travel to
So who have they got in Vegas? Who are they?
Raiders.
They got the Raiders in
So,
Vegas. Oh, they'll bet the Raiders.
and like the Raiders, they lose a home game there. And
Yeah,
no one
which
likes to
again,
travel to
no
Canberra.
no one loves
So,
to go to Canberra,
yeah.
seriously. Yeah,
So
so
it's
that
interesting.
yeah,
It's
that is
interesting.
interesting. I mean, yeah, as I said, I wasn't sure about the Warriors, but now sort of going through it and having a deep dive in it, and I haven't looked into teams like deep before we've spoken about them purely for this reason, right? I didn't want to make an assumption before we actually spoke about it. So
Yeah.
yeah, I definitely think they'll be disappointed if they don't make the top 8 this season. I think that's a failure of a season for the
Yeah.
Warriors. Absolutely.
Especially sort of having a few average years and then in 2023 showing people what they're made of and finishing top 4, making it to the prelim. And then last year having a really up and down season due to the form of Sean Johnson and, players coming in and out. And,
Well,
you
I
know,
thought that yeah, there was some injuries and they had some of the key guys out for long periods. But as I said, in my team that I'm looking at here, as in their 17 predicted, Murata
mm,
Niokore is on the bench.
yeah, okay.
So they got Jackson Ford starting in the back row with Kurt Capewell. So,
Yes.
I think they're in for a good season. And if I can sort of look at them and the Roosters from the two teams that we've previewed so far, I definitely have more confidence in the Warriors than the Roosters, that's for sure.
Yeah. So are they in your top 8?
They're in my top 8, yes.
Lock them in. Bottom half, 6 to 8 sort of thing? 5 to 8?
Won't be in the top 4. Won't be in the
They
top
won't be in
4.
the top 4.
No, won't be in
Okay,
the top
so
4.
so 5 to 8. Look, Dicko, I'm going to agree with you, mate. Let's let's be a little bit boring. Let's agree on a 5 to 8 spot for the Warriors. And I think their fans will be really happy with that. Like if they do finish in that bottom half of the top 8. And I think it's fair based on their squad
Yeah.
for this season. All right. The West Tigers.
We've probably left the most intriguing team, I reckon, to last here.
Yeah, big time. Now, headline act obviously is Jerome Luai. NRL's been kind to him. no 5-day turnarounds either. Their draw, it's pretty solid. Like they played Panthers twice. The rest of the teams they play twice are, Parramatta, Titans, Cowboys, Knights, Raiders. They're all the teams that we think are going to be a little bit down the pecking order.
Yep.
Warriors and the Seagulls.
Yep.
They travel 16,000 Ks compared to the average of 25.
Yep.
They play a Monday game. I'm assuming that's the Anzac Day long weekend or maybe King's birthday. Not sure on that one. But I don't know about you, Dicko, but they're not getting the spoon this year. No chance.
No, definitely not. I don't think. As I
I'm
said,
keen to hear towards the back end if you've got them in your 8 or not, though.
as I said, I've got about 16 teams in my 8. So
And
the only one,
we will be doing an actual official top 8 for both of us. So we've got, our own opinions here, not a
the only
joint
team that's
decision.
not in my 8 is Newcastle, mate. That's it. Everyone else is a chance.
Yeah, Newcastle and Dolphins for me. Mind you, after watching the Cowboys on the weekend,
Yeah, well,
they could be in a bit of strife, I reckon. Now, recruiting wise, the Tigers, there's no doubt about it. They've done the best recruitment in the comp. They've lost Isaiah Papali'i, Junior Tupou, Stefano, John Bateman, Aiden Caesar. They're the ones of significance. But did they have an impact? Do they make the Tigers better by leaving? Probably. Stefano is the one that sort of sticks out to me. He didn't look that impressive for the Storm, did he?
no,
In the trial game on the weekend. So,
no, he's a bit overrated personally.
Is that a blessing in disguise? Would I prefer Terrell May over Stefano? 100%.
On potential,
100%.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
But not just that, they've signed Jack Bird. Yeah, he's getting on, but adds, a lot of coverage. Rumored to get the starting 13 spot, which will be interesting to see how he goes. Royce Hunt, Gerald Skelton. He's an interesting one. Big body. Thought tried quite well. Good coming out of yardage. Sunny Taruva from the Panthers, and of course Jerome Luai. So all those players arguably could be starting for the Tigers come round 1. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm just looking at their sort of squad in depth now, and I've got some questions over the centers. No doubt they've recruited in terms of the number of players well.
On the
Right.
predicted lineup you've got there, who's at centre?
Dewey and Olam are the centers. Now I actually thought Brent Naden was really impressive in the All Stars game.
Yeah.
So
They got that young Fartape. They've got
so
Stafford Toa.
I'd be really surprised if Justin Olam plays. I think Adam Dewey will probably play.
Well, for those who don't know, I'm pretty sure that Justin Olam last year carried significant injury because he was a wrecking ball at Melbourne. It was sort of like when he's got the ball, get out of the way because he's made of concrete. And he sort of, at the start of the year, had a bit of impact, but fell away a little bit. I think he's had both knees done in the off-season and maybe some shoulders as well. I think he's had a few surgeries. So he might be raring to go after some good clean-outs. But you're right. The centers aren't great, are they?
Oh, they're just not striking fear into me if I'm an opposition. So, I mean, you never know. Jerome Luai and Lockie Galvin might be able to give them some clear space and they might look like world beaters. But, I mean, I'm just looking at it on paper and they just don't sort of jump at me like some of the premier centers in the game, right? The Bulldogs, the Broncos, these guys that have centers that can really sort of damage teams with speed and with power.
How do you think the Luai Galvin combo is going to go? Considering, do you think who's going to kick? Who's going to have more of a running game?
I think Jerome
share
Luai I think Jerome Luai has been brought to be the Adam Reynolds of the West Tigers. Absolutely, I feel like Jerome was always a halfback playing 5'8".
Yep.
Even though he's won four premierships at 5'8".
Yeah.
And multiple state of origins. Played for his country, Samoa.
Well, you saw what he was made of last year.
Yeah, and you also saw in that World Cup what he did for Samoa, right? Playing halfback,
Mm.
right? And as you said last year, like he was excellent. But I feel like his best football has been played when he's been halfback.
Yep.
That's not to say he's not a good 5'8",
No,
as much as I
no.
can't.
He's got a great running game.
Great running game, and as much as Jerome annoys the bejesus out of me,
Yeah.
um, I do feel like he's a natural seven. His game, and the other thing about him
Well, he's
too
got a
is
voice. He's got a voice.
yeah, and I reckon this will bring out the best of him, this environment, because everyone's going to look to him, and he's one of those rare players who like that attention on him. Like
Yeah.
he won't shy away from that. Like he won't go hiding and when
Well,
there's a
it's
moment, he'll step up.
yeah, it's constantly being talked about that he is I think it was CEO was what he was called at the Panthers, the chief energizer officer.
Oh right, okay.
So he is the guy that, really brings that culture and that team dynamic. And I guess, football can be taken really seriously at times, but with Jerome Luai, it looks like he's having fun all the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like he's always having a laugh, getting under people's skin, a bit like Munster. He's a player that you want at your club, someone vocal that's going to bring the mood up, but just wants that pressure. He
Yeah.
actually wants it.
Yeah,
Like,
you're right.
and I think he'll thrive. There's no doubt about it.
I think he'll thrive. What one sort of not negative, but one sort of question I'm yet to sort of see, and we won't see that until the season, is that Luai is an off the cuff player. We saw what he did in effectively that Origin game 3, where he picked the ball up, beat a few players, set up a try, right?
Yeah.
He's an off the cuff player. So he never had to worry at Penrith about organization because their system and their structure is so set. Everyone knows what they're doing. Now, you go to a new club like the Tigers, and I'm sure they're inputting a new structure or how they want to play, what their attack and their defense looks like. So with a guy like him being an off the cuff player, is he going to be able to then lead and organise? At Penrith, when he did play halfback, yes, he organised, but their system is so, well sort of ingrained in each player that they sort of knew what they were doing.
Yes, that's
And he
right.
didn't need to say, Isaiah, yo, you go and stand over here. I want you to drop under me, whatever. They just move. The players just move into position. They just know what's happening.
Yeah.
Whereas the Tigers, he's going to have to physically grab players and move them in, these young guys. So how's he gonna deal with that? And they're gonna have some downs this year. Don't get me wrong. They'll get a few scores put on them. I really believe that. Just because that's just the evolution, right? That's just how they're still finding themselves as a footy team. So how is he going to deal with that? And I mean, some ridiculous stat that I heard the other day, the bloke's got a 90% win record. Like, are you kidding?
Yeah.
How many games? Has he played over 100 games yet? Has he played 100 games?
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah.
He's the winningest player in the history of NRL so far.
He's got the highest win percentage. Yeah. Yeah.
Like, does he know how to lose? Because he's going to find out, I'm telling you.
Well, or is it a case of bringing that winning culture to the club as well, right?
Yeah, but again, I don't think that
Obviously,
doesn't result in that doesn't result in just W's every week, right? So
he's played 131 games.
I'm really sort of this is the biggest story of the year, the Tigers, I feel like. Not the Panthers potentially winning 5 in a row because, that everyone thinks that's potentially a 70% chance of happening. It's how the West Tigers go. There is so much unknown in this, and this is what's great about them, right? Trying to preview them. We've genuinely got no idea how they're going to come together. Do I think they're going to be in the bottom 4? No. I will categorically tell you that right now, that if they do finish in the bottom 4, the whole club needs to be blown up and started again.
Totally.
Because they're a basket case if they finish in the top 4, in the bottom 4 with what they've done.
Yeah, you can't recruit like that and I guess transform. I mean, you kind of actually saw it. I mean, you look at the preseason game, Dogs versus Tigers on the weekend. It was a new era of the Tigers
Mm.
They looked more organised, more professional. They looked like an NRL club. In previous seasons gone by, it looked like a SG Ball or Jersey Flegg side trying to play NRL,
Yep.
or
Yep.
a New South Wales Cup team trying to compete with NRL clubs, because the Bulldogs are, leading the pack almost in terms of, their cultural shift.
Mm.
And yeah, fair enough. They didn't have, many big names playing, but you could see the intent, more importantly, and not falling in a heap,
Yep.
like they used to do, and scores blow out, as a result of their depth. What I will say is, will Jerome Luai try too hard?
Great question. No, I don't think so when they're playing well. I do think so
Yeah.
when they're not.
So that's the part. So when things are all rosy, in any team,
Mm.
everything's great, right? Everything, woo-hoo, like things are going great. But when
And
the
if and
chips are
if
down, what
yeah,
happens?
well, that's right. And if I'm critical of Lockie Galvin, I thought he tried too hard in some games last year.
Yep.
Just tried to, change it. And
Same
we
with
all
Appy Coruscant, and he ended up
yes,
getting sin bin 5 times.
yeah, that's right. Exactly.
Yep.
You tend to want to solve problems individually when you're not going well, and
Yep.
hopefully for the Tigers, Jerome, Jack Bird, Taruva, these guys that have
Yeah.
played,
Terrell May,
Terrell May, these guys that
Coruscant.
played at big clubs,
Mm.
multiple games, premierships, will then instill that, if the chips are down, let's just hang in there and hang in
Yeah.
there because
Mm.
eventually the tide will turn.
Yeah. Well, I think Appy Coruscant probably last year sort of gone, oh, we're up shit creek here. Who do I turn to? And he's looking around his team going, I got no one here coming with me.
Yeah.
This year, different story.
What I will say about them is they will beat some really good teams, but they'll also lose to some teams that are going terribly.
Yeah.
And we'll sit there and we'll go, what's going on here? Like
And I
last,
think that's the reason why I don't have them in my eight.
yeah.
They could make the eight.
I've got them a chance. I can't tip them with confidence purely because I mean, if we're trying to predict what's going to happen, I have them fighting for eighth.
Mm.
I can't tell you where they're going to fit. That could be anywhere from what, not 8 to a 12.
I
I,
reckon anywhere from 6 to 11
I,
ish.
yeah, I don't have them as high as 6. I don't think they'll get
Mm.
enough wins, but I definitely have them fighting for the 8. They'll be there or thereabouts. It'll be
Yeah.
whether they can beat enough of the ordinary teams, which I feel like that'll be their biggest challenge, not the teams that they aren't expected to win, the teams that they are expected to beat.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Is there, obviously the player that needs to step up is Jerome Luai, but is there a player for you that you're really keen on?
Yeah, Jareem Buller.
Oh yeah.
Glimpses of like very small amount of glimpses of what he can do
Mm.
in terms of being able to sort of be one of the premier fullbacks in the competition.
Yep.
Needs to get a couple of errors out of his game. Also, think he falls into the category of trying a little too hard when things aren't going
Yep.
the best, kind of like a Reece Walsh.
Yeah.
Not as flary as
He's pretty safe.
yeah, he's pretty safe. Yep.
Yep.
But I feel like Luai and Galvin and him and Coruscant, that combination, that could develop into one of the sort of
Yeah.
premier spines.
Well, I was literally just about to double down on your Jareem Buller and say that their spine is, this is the year, right? Like
Yeah.
this is the year. Like how quickly is it going to develop? Because if it develops quickly and they get some really good continuity there and some wins on the board, you could see them finish in the top 8.
Yeah, that's right. Exactly. Like
And then we're
if
talking about the Tigers of the future here.
yeah, definitely. So if they can develop quickly and and they get some wins under their belt, I really feel like if they get a couple of wins under their belt early, it could be anything for the Tigers. If they don't start well,
Yeah.
they'll get hammered by everyone. What's happening with the Tigers? And that could just shoot them in the foot in terms of confidence.
And for the Tigers fans out there, this is your start to the season. Newcastle Knights at home, followed by the Eels, followed by the Dolphins, followed by the Warriors at home, followed by the Broncos. So those first 4 fixtures, they could genuinely win 4. And if they do, or if they win 3 out of those 4, look out.
Yeah, they're all 50-50 games, I would say.
Yeah. It
They
could be
would,
worse, It could be Sharks, Panthers.
yeah. And they will start favourites in probably 2 or 3 of those games. So
Yeah.
they should definitely take care of that. And then that confidence in being able to get results then lifts
Yeah.
players.
And I feel like, I mean, maybe this is reading too much into it, but most of the teams that start well are the fitter sides who haven't been sort of hampered by injury. I mean, you've seen the Panthers start a little bit slow last year. You've seen the Roosters start slow in seasons gone by. But once the crux of the team comes back and they're all fit,
Yeah.
they sort of move up the ranks. What the Tigers don't have is pretty much any injuries, and everyone is I guess young, fit, healthy, confident. There's an awe around the club. So
There is potential for this Tigers team to overachieve this year as well. Let's not forget about that. Let's just remember the Broncos of 23.
Yep.
Probably overachieved, I would have thought. No one had them, fell off a perch second year. So there is potential for this team to overachieve a little bit.
Yeah, well, Broncos were wooden spoon only a few years prior.
Correct. So yeah, I think Tigers fans should be buoyed this season. Definitely, they should be feeling confident about their side.
Yeah. Well, that wraps it up, fam, for another, I guess, wrap up of the previews for the season. Now, Dicko, next week, Vegas previews, mate.
Yeah, we're getting into it now, mate.
We are getting into it.
Round 1 or a split round 1.
Yeah,
so we're
gonna spice it up. Way more super coach prediction, fantasy prediction. We've also got our own predictions, sponsored proudly by High Caliber Racing. So we will be giving our in-depth analysis and predictions for the upcoming weeks and fixtures ahead. And mate, I can't believe it. Literally next week is the preview of round 1.
And look out for our top 8s on socials. Compare it. Give us yours. Comment us. Tell us whether you think we're talking rubbish or we've got no idea. All feedback is appreciated. All feedback is appreciated. So, yeah, get on board. Ready for a big season. And may the best team win.
That's it.